Hey everyone, what's up? Today we are taking a closer look at Geekom's A8 mini PC, which is really small, even for a mini PC. And it's really quiet, but there is an issue, and it's not even really Geekom's fault. So let's look into that. Full disclosure, Geekom sent me this A8 for a review, but there was no payment involved and they had no say in my script or the review in general, and I was not obliged to make a review at all. Today's video is sponsored by Flexispot and their E7 Pro. I've been using one of their desks for almost 10 years in my previous main office job, and since a year ago I've been using one for my YouTube video setup as well. And now I finally got the amazing Flexispot E7 Pro standing desk, which is their updated flagship, with a huge and beautiful bamboo tabletop for myself. It's super easy to set up and install, high quality, very stable, very fast and very powerful, and apparently it can now lift up to 180 kg. And the included cable management at the back really helps to keep the setup super clean, and it's pretty easy to use. Having a good chair is cool and important, but nothing really helped my back as much around 10 years ago than actually using an electric standing desk. I quickly began to really feel when I was sitting too long, and now I have these urges to stand up really, and it's just relieving and I feel way more flexible. And you could actually use the incredibly handy Flexispot Motion X walking pad with the Flexispot E7 Pro at the same time. Walking and working, or watching some Netflix, or maybe even play some games. To be honest, I could not get along without a standing desk anymore. Currently, Flexispot is running a 21 days workout challenge. Anyone can participate at any time as long as they order a Motion X treadmill by March 1st, 2026. Those who manage to use the treadmill for at least 20 minutes on 21 consecutive days will receive a €99 cashback. Click the link in the video description to learn more details. So let's have a detailed view at the specs of the A8 first. The A8 in today's tested configuration comes with a fast laptop-based Zen 4 CPU by AMD. The AMD Ryzen 7 8745HS with 8 cores and 16 threads, a TDP of up to 55 Watt and the well-known Radeon 780M iGPU. And due to the current RAM crisis, only 16GB of DDR5 4800 megatransfer RAM, which unfortunately comes in a single stick configuration. The RAM can be upgraded to 64GB and there are 2 slots. And as far as I know, Geekom is selling different versions of the A8 with different RAM configurations and alternatively a Ryzen 9 as well. So the CPU, RAM and gaming performance can vary quite a lot. And it also has a very fast PCIe Gen 4 1TB Western Digital SSD. Oh, and the storage can be upgraded up to 2TB, but there's no second slot in here. For data transfer, we're getting a Wi-Fi 6E and a Bluetooth 5.2 adapter here, as well as a 2.5 gigabit LAN port at the back. There's a smaller proprietary 120 watt power supply included, as well as a VESA mount to install the A8 at the back of a monitor if you'd like that. And Geekom also includes an HDMI cable and a small quick start guide. And it comes with a clean version of Windows 11 Pro pre-installed. Opening up the A8 is pretty tricky, as you'll first need to get rid of these rubber feet. Unscrew 4 screws beneath them and then you have to open it. Inside you'll find another shield that you'll have to get rid of, and that one has the Wi-Fi antenna attached to it. So it's pretty likely that the first time you'll open it, you'll rip that connector. And to reattach that, you will first need to uninstall the M.2. So while it is doable, it can be quite annoying all in all. The vast ports and connections offer the following standards. At the front we're getting one 3.5mm audio jack, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports, while one of them comes with power delivery and there's also the power button. And at the back we're getting another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port and a USB 2 Type A port. There's also 2 USB-C ports, one being USB 4 with up to 40 gigabits per second and the other USB 3.2 while they both support display out over USB-C, and you could also use an external Thunderbolt eGPU with one of them. Furthermore, we are getting a 2.5 gigabit LAN port and 2 HDMI 2.0 ports. So we can connect a total of 4 4K monitors. And at the left side, there is a full-sized SD card reader with decent transfer speeds. So we are getting a total of 6 USB ports, and we can attach up to 4 4K monitors to the Geekom A8 at the same time. Also, unfortunately, there is no Oculink port, which is the faster alternative for each GPU these days. And the A8 does not have a microphone or speakers of any kind. So today's tested version is priced at around $750, which is a very unstable price these days due to the fluctuations in RAM prices. And well, the $750 is the price before any discount code is applied. And if I can get one for you guys, you'll find the link in the description and the comments. Considering the performance, this mini PC is very tiny with its 112 by 112 by 38 millimeters, and it only weighs 415 gram and an additional 380 gram for the AC adapter and its cables. The case is made out of one seamless aluminum piece, which resembles the look of Apple Mac Minis. And there's also black plastic at the back and the bottom. And thanks to that, it is pretty immune to fingerprints overall. Software-wise, Geekom does not provide a control center of any kind, and there wasn't a BIOS update available yet. But if you look at the older IT13 mini PC by Geekom, they do offer BIOS updates after a while. That means there is no way to control the fans other than using the BIOS, where we can choose one of the 3 performance modes: silent, balanced, and performance. And we can also set the fan speed to auto, maximum, or even configure it manually in the otherwise pretty basic BIOS, which you can enter on startup by hitting the delete key on your keyboard, by the way. These fan and performance modes slightly impact the A8's performance, as they determine how much power the CPU is allowed to use for a short burst and in the long run. By the way, the idle power consumption of the whole mini PC is really great no matter which performance mode is activated, with around insanely low 3 to 4 watt if you're not doing anything with it, which would be absolutely impossible for a full regular desktop PC of any kind. But before we are talking about the performance, let's talk about the fan noise. If we leave the A8 on idle on the table, it's a pretty silent whisper, undistinguishable from the rest of my room, around 30 to 33 decibels at a distance of around 50 to 70 centimeters. The fan is always on, but super quiet when the A8 is idling. It starts to get slightly hearable watching a 4K YouTube video, for example, but it's not annoying. I've measured around 35 decibel in performance mode. On a full load in a longer Cinebench run, which utilizes the CPU by 100%, I then measured around 42 decibels in performance mode. I didn't measure any thermal throttling at my 21 degrees Celsius room temperature. So overall, the cooling system seems to be perfectly fine, and considering the loudness, this is one of the most silent mini PCs I've tested yet, especially with a more powerful 8-core CPU. Now in Cinebench R23 I saw up to 16,248 points in the multi-core and 1,733 points in the single-core test using the performance mode. 15,401 for the multi-core using the balanced mode and 14,682 for the silent mode. In the brand new Cinebench 2026, I saw up to 3,483 for the multi-core and 557 for the single-core test in performance mode. Slightly lower 3,320 points in the multi-core test on balanced mode and 3,107 for the silent mode, whereas the single-core performance stays the same throughout the different performance modes as with basically almost all CPUs. The PC Mark X score is okay for a mobile CPU-based system without a dedicated GPU, with a total of up to 7,483 points on performance mode, but when I actually changed the RAM to 2 8GB sticks of 5,600 MB transfer RAM instead, I already got 7,985 points for that test, so that's 8% more. I also ran the Budget Systems benchmarks for Adobe Photoshop, which resulted in 5,657 points for Photoshop. Very hamstrung by the RAM here. And only 1,748 for Premiere Pro, where a dedicated GPU would have the biggest impact. I mean, Photoshop will work absolutely flawlessly fine, and even 4K video editing is possible to some extent, but if you're getting this mini PC, try to sell the single stick and get two 8GB sticks instead if you're not getting two 16GB sticks in the first place. This is also very important for gaming, as the iGPU will use the included RAM as VRAM, and it is very much depending on the memory bandwidth, which is basically only half as good with a single stick of RAM, even if it's DDR5. We can see that in the 3D Mark Firestrike benchmark, where with the single stick of 16GB, it got a very low total of only 4,250 points, which is even less than a RADEON 660M would get. And with two 8GB sticks, it was 72% more with a total of 7,345. The same happened to TimeSpy with 3,051 for the dual channel config, while only 1,725 for the single channel stick of 16GB RAM. And in the Cyberpunk 2077 benchmark at 1080p with low settings and FSR on balanced, I saw a big difference of 33 versus 51 FPS as well. I mean, if you're neither gaming or doing stuff like video editing, etc., you don't really need to care. You won't notice a difference in surfing, watching YouTube and office-related work stuff. But if you're only doing that stuff anyways, you could also look out for a, well, slightly cheaper model, which will do the job just as fine, so keep that in mind. And now, last but not least, let's take a look at the gaming performance of the A8, despite the unfortunate RAM config in performance mode in some popular titles. The first game for today will be Arc Raiders, in which I saw an average of 39 FPS with the lowest settings at 1080p plus FSR on performance and 1% lows of around 23. Well, I mean, not optimal would be an understatement, but I really guess with two sticks of RAM it would be doable with a stable 60 FPS, if you're okay with lower settings and upscaling. And we have to factor in that this game is in general really optimized pretty good for an Unreal Engine game. Of course, CS2 ran a bit better with 1080p low with FSR activated. 86 FPS on average with 1% lows of 43 FPS in a match against bots on Dust 2. That's most likely enough for most people that are just playing this game for some casual fun, I guess. Again, probably much better with two sticks of RAM instead. For GTA 5 Enhanced, I was using the minimum preset with FSR on quality at 1080p, which resulted in, well, playable 40 FPS on average and 1% lows of 27. I would not recommend using frame generation here, as with that base frame rate, the input lag just becomes pretty noticeable. But you probably can't hear it anymore already. With two sticks, things should look much better already. By the way, here we can see that in the beginning the APU can pull around 53 watt, which is reduced to around 45 watt after a while, and that reduction also leads to lower temperatures that are in a perfectly safe and cool region. Well, the times are kinda tough for mini PC manufacturers. The insane increase in RAM prices is definitely paying its toll. If they want to keep the prices low, they will have to drastically lower the performance with smaller, slower and less RAM sticks, which clearly isn't Geekom's fault like at all, but I would have clearly preferred two 8GB sticks for this one instead, if you have to settle with 16GB in the first place. I really like the design of the A8. It is also super tiny and smaller than most comparable mini PCs, and somehow, yet it still manages to stay very silent and cool at the same time, which is a pretty impressive engineering success. The port selection is decent as well, and overall with a better RAM config, the performance is absolutely fine. What bothered me the most was the opening process, the missing second M.2 slot in here, and of course the lonely 16GB stick of slower 4800 megatransfer RAM. If you can, definitely try to get it with two sticks or upgrade it yourself. Well, maybe sell the single stick. PS, if you're interested in the eGPU topic, make sure to check out this video next. If you want to get the Geekom A8 for yourself, make sure to use the link in the description and use my 10% discount code as well. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the content, consider liking the video or even subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot. Thank you. Also, as always, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye bye and tschüss.